So let me first start by saying hello, everyone, and welcome to our February Products That Count webinar. Today, we have an insightful and timely session focused on leading with confidence in the AI space. This is a must-know topic for product leaders navigating the challenges and the opportunities that artificial intelligence is providing us with, and the velocity, obviously, by which we are moving is just incredibly fast. And so all the more reason to stay up on the latest and greatest and feel confident in your work. But before we jump into today's discussion, I want to take a moment to highlight why Products That Count community is so unique. And I'll first start with the reach, right? As every good product person, you should be measuring your reach, and we measure ours. We have over 500,000 product managers reached in this community. So it is one of the largest and most influential networks in the product management community worldwide. So I think that's really powerful. The next thing I'll highlight is really the amount of resources. You're here on the San Francisco chapter. There are actually many chapters that host webinars on a monthly basis, and we have an incredible group of podcast hosts. And as a result, there are thousands of resources available to you for Products That Count. And these, range from things that are written by individuals in the C-suite or VPs of product to those amazing principal product managers that just really move mountains. So just know that if you have a product challenge to take on, there is probably content that you can find on Products That Count or the How to Product YouTube channel, which is where this will get packaged up and kept. And so, yes, we will be presenting and you will have access to all this collateral. You can find it on that Products That Count YouTube channel, and that can be an incredible go-to resource for you. Now, let me introduce myself. So my name is Denise Hemke, and I'm honored to be here and hosting you all and Sheetal today. I'm really excited to have her here. Outside of my involvement with Products That Count, I am the Chief Product Officer at NeoGov, where we deliver an HCM and public safety platform really tailored to the needs of government agencies. Now let's pivot to that main event. I am thrilled to welcome our guest speaker today, Sheetal Rajpatel, or Pajal, a seasoned product leader and innovator. Most recently, Sheetal led Amazon Kids subscription SaaS product. She's got over 15 years of experience building SaaS products, and she's built scaled products across a wide range of industries. In today's webinar, Sheetal's going to discuss how to lead with confidence in the AI space. This really starts with understanding the core technical concepts, how to identify where AI can really help you move the needle and provide meaningful value to your customers, and then making sure that you hire the right talent that can really vision and execute on the AI innovation that you have in store. So whether you're beginning on your AI journey or optimizing existing efforts, this session should equip you with some actionable insights that you can put to work to really thrive in this rapidly evolving landscape. So quick housekeeping tip before we get started. We do open Q&A at the end, and so throughout, feel free to log your questions. You're going to log them in the Q&A portion of the chat, so not in the main chat session, but in the Q&A portion. And if you don't know where to find that, if it's not popping up right away, it's probably hiding under that ... menu. And feel free to log those questions throughout. I'll be fielding those questions and asking them directly to Sheetal at the end here. So with that, let's get started. Sheetal, take it away.
Sounds great. Thank you, Denise, for such a great introduction. I'm really excited to be here and share this work with you guys. Yeah, so a little bit about me. Denise already covered a lot of it. The only thing I will add there is I have been working in AI since before all the chat GPT and Gen AI wave. So I have seen how AI was pre-chat GPT and how it's evolving post. So lots of people mistake AI to just be Gen AI, but it was very much a thing before as well. Let's see. So there's a lot of hype around AI. We've probably all of you have probably seen it, interacted with some tools. You might have tried some and they didn't become sticky, or some that you're using. But the key question is, there was a lot of hype around other technologies in the past too, right? You can see here on the screen, metaverse, blockchain, all of those things, crypto, that didn't necessarily pan out as much as we thought they would, right, at the time. So how do we know if this time it's different? How do we know this time we need to sit up, pay attention, and actually put our effort into learning this new thing? And there's some signal around that, right? There's some proof points around why we believe this time it will be different. McKinsey study is showing that there's going to be almost $2 trillion in global economic value creation directly led from Gen AI. It's also projected that 80% of companies globally will integrate in some form or another AI into their product offering, right? It might not be all like front facing, it might be more in their back operations, it might be like in their employee engagement, it might be like different facets of it, right? But 80% of companies, that's pretty big. That's ubiquitous to me. The pace of progress, right? Denise mentioned that in the intro, the velocity of how fast things are moving with AI, it is breakneck speed. So if you look here, so one more data point, proof point around, why we should believe this time it's different and it's real. It's because there's a number of papers submitted, and you can kind of see the curve. It's like straight up, and it's affecting very broadly every industry. Every industry is represented in these papers. Broad base of use cases and opportunities. So that's another proof point. And then as we move over to look at the adoption curve, and we look at like end consumers, you see, it's the fastest sprint to 1 million users, 100 million users as well. And the pace of this ChatGPT is exponentially faster than any of the other technologies, right? 100 million users in 2 months versus 9 months of TikTok, which we thought at that time was unprecedented. So now, hopefully by now, I've convinced you that you do need to pay attention, and it should be something you invest your time and energy into. We're gonna talk now about like what is it that like what are the keys to building these like impactful AI-driven products. And I apologize here. I see I have written 3 keys, but there's actually 4. I had 3 in there, and then I decided to add in some an extra section. So my bad there. But I might not have enough time to go through all 4, but if we don't get to it, you'll have access to these slides so you can review them later. We'll see based on like the timing how far we get. But I think even if I get to the top 3, that will be pretty good. So the first I'll talk about is PMs needing a foundational technical depth in AI. That's going to be really important to be able to know like what we should be building for and how. a lot of people think of AI as magic, and the quicker product leaders can unpack that magic into what's going on and how AI is making the decisions, how is it generating the different media, whether it's text, video, audio, and how we can figure out how we um, uh, impact that, right? And make sure that we're getting what we want at the end of it. The second one is going to be, prioritization. Hopefully, as PMs, this should not be a surprise. PMs love to do prioritization assessing. There's always lots to do. So like what can we what should we be building? What should we be saying no to? And how should we be making those decisions? We'll cover that. And then third section, I will go over 3 key AI trends that I see as like must do because they are imminent, and what that means for the PM role. And then the fourth I'll get into is how we should think about the organizational needs. There's the AI jobs are exploding, and there isn't enough talent to serve all the needs that we're going to have. So how do we think about like hiring? How do we be thinking about training existing teams on AI? So let's get into it. So the first section, this is the technical understanding. So you as the PM needs to understand, how to apply AI. But to understand that, you need to build that intuition. You need to know the base of how it works, where it can go wrong, what are the limitations for it, what are the challenges, how to think about trade-offs. I think that's always really important because, there's always more to do. So how do you think about like balancing one side from the other side? And I think that's really key. So once you build that intuition, then you can imagine new concepts, and then incorporate that within your workflow. So here I am giving you some resources, some background reading links, some classes and podcasts that I like to use. There's obviously a lot more out there, but these are some that I think, especially the reading, helps you ground into what is ChatGPT, what are the key things that you need to know. So yeah, I will let you get to those links in your own time. Okay, so one of the things that I am challenging this group to do, and it's almost end of January, let's say by in the next 4 weeks, get your hands on this, whichever tool you use. There's lots of different tools out there: Perplexity, ChatGPT, Gemini. Try these 10 things. First, it's important to change like some of the habits that we have created, right? So instead of going into Google and searching things, use your first landing page as Perplexity, right? And go and do a normal search like you would do when you go to Google, right? And see what happens. Probably the first response isn't gonna be what you were looking for, but it'll give you a good starting point, and it'll give you a good understanding of what's what. Second, next time you're writing an email, don't start from a blank page, right? Like I like to do bullet points a lot. So write your bullet points and see how Gen AI can like change your messaging there. And then third, like summarize a document. I love using Notebook LM, especially when there's like a big research paper I want to read, or a book or something that I either don't want to spend enough time investing in it, or don't have that time. As PMs, we're often challenged on time. So go do that, summarize the document so that you have all the puts and takes. I like to tell ChatGPT to like create an executive brief for me, and I have like set of instructions I give it on how I like my executive brief to be written. And then it tells me like everything I need to know. So yeah, so I have a bunch of other ones in here, including some fun stuff too. So it doesn't have to be all like work. Trip planning, right? I recently, last year, went on a trip to Amsterdam, and I tried 10 different travel agent, the co-pilots that are popped up. And yes, there were more than 10. I went and looked at the top 10, and I tried out all of them. There was a lot to be desired still, but you can kind of see where that technology is heading, and how we can simplify travel, and bring the advantages that generative AI has into the travel planning stages. And obviously you can go deeper into like other stages of travel too, but I went into the planning stage and I wanted to go deep on that. Yeah, and then obviously like coding, like if you have your SQL queries and debugging, like you can get help from on that as well. And I didn't go through some of them, but you see them here, like idea generation. This is a good one because this allows you to like test the creativity of ChatGPT. Not a lot of people know this, but there is a temperature setting that you can use to tell ChatGPT like how creative you want it to be. So tweak that setting, see like how you can bring more interesting ideas into your next brainstorm, for instance. Okay, so after you've done all of that, then you can dig deeper into like what are some advanced prompting things. And I have a list of 10 here as well. I'm not gonna go through all of these in the interest of time, but basically you should know that there are advanced prompting techniques that are proven to make the results better. And you can like I'll go deeper in some of this in like my next sessions, but essentially it's a way of like giving specific and detailed requests to ChatGPT. You can like apply different tones and styles to match the what you're trying to do, right? Like if it's formal reporting or if it's informal brainstorming, you need visuals for your upcoming presentation. I used one of the like custom GPTs around called Napkin AI to create some of the visuals for this presentation. So yeah, so there's some advanced stuff that you can do, including like setting boundaries and restrictions to give guardrails to the LLM around like what you want, what type of output you're looking for. Okay, and then finally for this section, I'll say I'll talk about it a little bit more in the trend section, but go multimodal. So one of the big things that the LLMs has unlocked is the ability for us to go across different modalities, meaning like text, voice, video, images, all of that, and making our products and our experiences, our digital experiences, more exciting, right? Because it's the natural way humans engage voice, right? And so far in digital, voice has been very limited. So in the digital experiences, so like try out all these things. Don't just stick to like text. Use voice modality. Use create videos. Do like audio stuff. Do all of those things to understand the full breadth and scope of what LLMs are unlocking. Let's see, create podcasts for new concepts. Like, I talked about Notebook LM does that really, really well. Play with public data sets from Kaggle, right? So Kaggle has these vast data sets that have like natural language in them, so NLP, and then you can use that data to figure out like what type of insights you can extract from it, what all data others are publishing, so that it gives you insight about like what you should be thinking about within your product and how you can unlock some of that. And then finally, like, try products featured in Product Hunt. That's one of my favorite pastimes. Um, and I enjoy that because I feel like it helps me stay at the cutting edge, which is really important. And then I just wanted to kind of throw this out there. I'm not going to go into too much of it, but essentially, if you look here, this is from Hugging Face. It has like, you see there's lots of models across these different types of tasks, right? The natural language processing, multimodal, computer vision, all of that. Like there's lots of different models, there's different benchmarks. So depending on the application you're trying to build, you'll be able to figure out like what you want to use and how that compares to other models and make your trade-offs that way. Okay, so I'm gonna get into next. I'm gonna keep rushing through because we started, I apologize, a little bit late. So I want to make sure we have enough time. The second section is prioritization. So as product managers, the discipline has not fundamentally changed. All the things that we learned in the past, whether it's in our jobs or formal training about product management, you can't forget any of that. So product management still lives in the intersection of customer, business, and the technology. And PMs still need to balance those needs, the customer side, the business side, and the tech side. So we can't forget that. That's a big, important point. Here, the big point I want to make here is that AI powered isn't the end destination. It only matters if what you're using AI for is making the product better. So well-researched use cases which solve real user problems are going to be the ones that win. Just because you can do something with AI doesn't mean that you should be doing it. We still need to build products which are, one, innovative, two, useful, and three, intuitive. Those are the three pillars that's going to make products better. And then, yeah, like prioritization, like it should not be a surprise. Effort versus customer impact. This is still how you should be thinking about prioritization. I have like another slide that talks about a framework, but essentially, whatever framework you're using for prioritization will still probably hold true 80% of it. You may have to tweak it a little to make sure that you're accounting for AI features, but it should still, for the most part, hold true. Number two is AI comes with a lot of risks too, right? So an example I have here, I have a few examples. One of them I'll talk about, which is Air Canada chatbot. It wrongly gave customer discount, and because it was an agent um, of the company, they had to honor it, right? And it cost the company because they had not thought about like giving their chatbot boundaries, right? And so like whatever you do with AI, it's still like it's an agent that is for your company. So we can't forget that. We have to give it boundaries. We have to think about like what are the risks, what can it do, and make sure we reel it in and not let it go out of bounds of what we want it to do. Yeah, and step three is building moat, right? As product builders, we need to make sure we're building things where we have a right to win. Whether it's if you think about where you can create sustainable advantages. One is if you have scale, to access to proprietary data, right? Whether you're generating it or combining it. And number three is access to the customer. So those are the that give you strong, sustainable moat. And in this world of AI, where everything is getting powered by data, the moat is in AI is like access to that data, hard to replicate data, where especially vis-a-vis your competitors, is going to be really important. So that's super exciting because it's the age of data, so it's going to be important for you to think about like what do you have and what can you build in terms of collecting or gaining access to from a data perspective. Okay, so modes, do's and don'ts. So what key things here that I want to talk for the foundational models that we have will get better on cost, speed, and optimizations. So those are three things that the big guys, right, are already working on. They're working on those optimizations on cost, speed. So the focus for you building products should be on use cases, right? What is the user journey? What is the experience? What are the LLMs? What are the new use cases the LLMs are unlocking? And making sure you go deep on that and making sure that you're making your value proposition for the user really strong because of your focus on that. If you think you're going to like get optimizing cost or speed, you're not gonna get that better like versus like a Google or Anthropic, right? You're not gonna get replicate that. So my recommendation is to focus on the use cases, focus on like fine tuning, use RAG, Raft, and focus on the applications really strongly, especially like multimodal capabilities, because that is a big unlock LLMs has had that wasn't there before. All right. So here I have so Marley Nika, who is head of Gen AI at Google, just here in the prioritization section. Basically, I talked about this earlier. So 80% of how you're prioritizing your features, like Rice is a very well used framework. So if you're using that, you just throw in AI complexity into this equation. So it's not a redo, it's just adding a little bit more into it. And a pro tip I have is that you don't need to build everything for AI. There are a lot of like B2B enterprise grade SaaS software that's being built to help speed up your AI execution. So I would say like go external to move faster on these things, unless there's a reason that you want to keep the AI in-house for proprietary reasons, whether it makes sense for your moat, unless you have a strong advantage from that perspective. I would say like leverage the B2B SaaS stuff that's being built right now. Okay, so in this next section, I want to talk about 3 top AI trends that I see that are going to be really important. Number 1 is product leaders will become agent leaders, and that's a little bit um, interesting here because standalone tools, they will be working on building AI agent systems, and I have an example here for like a marketplace product that matches people who have an emergency electrical need with electricians. And you can kind of see here there's like 6 different types of agents that are being deployed, and in this scenario, the PM, what they work on is they define the objective, the features, metrics, and the data that needs to be used, and the constraints for the system. And the PM will balance 3 things, right? Like the long-term implications, think about like what can go wrong, what are bad actors who would come in and try to game the system, right? Like we saw with Air Canada how maybe it wasn't intentional, but the customer kind of gamed the system with the customer service bot. And then the third thing is going to be thinking about like shallow versus vanity metrics, and thinking about like deeper metrics that will actually drive the business. Number 2, this is my prediction. Multimodality in your experiences is going to give you that hockey stick growth that everyone wants. This is really big. Like I think this is where the future is headed. I'm gonna jump into one example here that I came up with, which is like a healthcare assistance. So if you think about the old approach, still using AI, right? They might have like an app where users, type in their symptoms, they go to WebMD or whatever, and then on the back side, it's using predictive analytics, predictive modeling to like figure out like what's wrong with the customer or the user. And the multimodal approach, right? Like it will leverage voice. So, the person just has to say, hey, these are some symptoms that I'm seeing. There will be vision capability, right? They might be able to snap a picture from their phone and share, whether it's like any external symptoms, right? Whether it's a rash or something. And then the experience here is it allows the assistant to give more personalized advice that's sort of magical in a way that it helps understand the issue really deeper. Another example of multimodal is a shopping assistant, right? So old approach might be a chatbot recommends items based on past purchases or filling out preference forms. This is something that, if you've ever shopped for anything, you will have seen it, right? Amazon just keeps giving you like recommendations based on your prior purchases. If you think about like Stitch Fix, they will like ask you for a bunch of preferences. Do you like this or do you like this? And then like it's a cumbersome process, but behind the scenes, the AI needs the data to churn out the predictions, right? So, and the recommendations. So it needs all of that data. But from a user perspective, it's not a delightful experience. So the new approach is going to be, I might take pictures of my closet, and I might take pictures like of my daily, everyday style, of what I've, kind of worn. And then the assistant kind of uses that visual analysis, and gives some recommendations. Maybe it's even back and forth, right? Conversational. And I can, talk about my use case, right? Like maybe I have a formal event, or maybe I have like a special presentation where I want to dress up, whereas my closet might be more informal, right? So all of that like blending of the between the voice and the images and all of that experience, it's a much more richer experience for users. Um, so I'm gonna go really quickly on the third big prediction I have. Now, because of this like generative abilities of AI, the digital presence will there's going to be a lot of noise in digital noise, like in social media, whether it's like automated postings or lots of blogs and like YouTube videos churning out using these LLMs. There's going to be so much noise that we're not going to know like what is human versus what is a bot. And because they're going to sound more and more like humans. So there's going to be this big need for human-only communities and human-only experiences, where no AI is welcome, so to speak. And that's gonna be like a huge huge thing we're gonna see popping up this year and next year. Okay, I'm not gonna go into the rest of this. I think you guys can you'll have the slides. By the way, if you scan this QR code, not only can you download the slides, but you can get on my wait list for advanced workshops that I will have on like there's a couple topics I have in mind: advanced prompting, and the second one is interviewing for AI product management. So stay tuned for that. But in the meanwhile, you can absolutely just download these slides for free.
Amazing. You'll also be able to find this on our Products That Count YouTube channel, which is a part of our
Perfect.
community. Amazing. Well, thank you so much. So we've got some questions for you. Maybe if you want to unshare the slide deck so that we can get a little bit closer.
Yeah, let's do that.
And we will, I'll start fielding those. So the first question for you, Sheetal, is what are the key ethical considerations and potential biases that PM should be aware of when brainstorming on AI solutions?
Yeah, ethical considerations, I think that's a really important question. So any biases that currently exist within our society are just going to get amplified, right? Whether it's gender bias, whether it's like racial bias or any of that just gets amplified within the context of AI. So what we need to do is be mindful of that and incorporate that, when I talked about giving AI guardrails and boundaries, using that to like not just give that guardrail, but like go deeper on, okay, like this might be a gender bias, or so like we need to give higher weights to whatever we're trying to give more weight to in these models. We can make that stronger. But I think it has to be done ad hoc, and it has to be done in a way that we know that bias exists. And we want to make sure that we're surfacing it and bringing it out.
Yeah, we had somebody speak actually on this exact topic. He's very deep in ethical AI, I think 2 months ago, maybe in November. So I would also encourage you find that artifact on the Product
Yeah.
YouTube channel. But to really add to what you're saying is like it's only going to perpetuate the bias, and so we need to be cognizant of it. So we certainly need to test for those cases. And then his biggest piece of advice is talk to your legal counsel right before you start to roll these things out, and really make sure that you've thought those things through and that we've conveyed it in the right way, because to your point, like there is that risk of perpetuating what might already be out there in society.
That is correct. That's a very good point.
Yeah. Yeah. You and legal that needs to be your best friend in launching AI products. All right. So the next one is, can you use the RICE A for just the initiatives that are AI and use regular RICE and compare them to each other? Like, is that an apples to apples comparison? Or as I think about sort of prioritizing those things, do I almost need to think about them as two distinct lists because the prioritization math is a little different?
Yeah, so I would say, like, just stepping back into it, right? Like Rice, if it's non-AI features, then Rice, right? Because all the A is doing in that Rice A is discounting your number a little bit more based on like the AI maintenance, because it adds higher effort, right? So if you think about AI models, they need to be maintained. You need so like you'll need to monitor the data drifting. You need to make sure that uh, as the features are shifting, you're like somebody is going and actively re-engineering those features. So like in my experience, right, it's like every 3 months you review the model. Is it still working? Do we need to make any shifts? So it adds a level of effort, which is why it's at the bottom, right? Because the E for rice is at the bottom, and then
Yeah.
this A adds another level of effort, which goes at the bottom.
So it sounds like I could compare those things because it's just baking in sort of that additional cost to the effort. The thing
Yeah,
that sometimes I have the debate on with my
that's right.
fellow product leaders, though, is you almost want like, yes, rice is a methodology. It's not a religion, right? It's not just go do those things in rank order. And so it might be that, hey, the score isn't quite as great because there's AI incorporated into it, right? But if this is something that's going to be a strategic differentiator, it can be worth the investment. And so to add, kind of that, we have to add our human sense on top of the math.
Yeah, and I would say it's a strategic differentiator, or like, I would argue AI, your impact should be greater, right? So if the impact is greater, then your numerator is covering for that already. So don't worry about it, right? It's like you should only do it if the impact justifies it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you've got a lot of experience in this area, so I would also love to hear about what are some common pitfalls that product leaders face when incorporating AI into their products, and how might we avoid them?
Yeah. So I think there's two that come top of mind for me. One is the shiny object syndrome.
Mm,
So many product leaders kind of get caught up in the AI hype, want to use AI for everything. Um, and I think what we really need to focus on is what are the clear problems where AI has a unique advantage, and it's unlocking something for your product, right? It's I like to think it's a scalpel, not a Swiss Army knife. So think deeper on like what is the user journey, what is it doing for the product that can't be done with non-AI tools, right? And then number two is it's shocking to me how data readiness can be lacking in organizations. Um, One of the things that are really important for AI is like AI is only as good as the data it learns from. So I think of data as like the soil for the tree. If it's not
mm,
rich and clean, your tree won't grow, right? And you don't have fertilizer, it won't grow. So what I recommend in that case is have a really thorough data audit. You know, work on improving the data quality, the pipelines, work on and do it incrementally, right? And then work on integrating. One of the things that this is something I've done a lot. Like when I was at Amazon, my division didn't have like Amazon Prime data pipelines, right? So like builds that stuff in so that you get the richness of like what the customer is, who the customer is, what we should be surfacing to them, in a way that actually is appealing, right? So builds those things in so that you can get that data to power your AI. When I was at Tree, we used third-party data. Like we partnered with TransUnion, which gives you like your credit monitoring, and we use them as a strategic partner to ingest their data so that we can be more proactive for our customers. And so you do that incrementally, you build this rich data that you have access to, whether it's like your own internal, like I did at Amazon, or through external partnerships, like I did at LendingTree. But that is what is the meat here, right? The third way that you do it is by, like taking the user interactions that you have within your product and making sure you're creating that rich data set that then, you might not have value for it today, but have the vision of like, how will that give me value 5 years from now, right? Because you might be creating a new feature that like nobody's using today, but then if you're building in that robustness of the data architecture today, then 5 years from now, that's your moat.
yeah, I love that. I love the analogy of the soil. I think it's such a great analogy. Sometimes our soil, to your point, is a little dirty. Sometimes we don't have enough of it. And so
Yeah.
you might need to drive adoption of your feature in order to really have the data that you can operate on. And I love this also, this idea of that I can enrich with third-party data to make that an even better experience.
Yeah, synthetic data is another one that is a promising area. So you can use synthetic data to like if you don't have enough data, use synthetic data. But there's some controversy, like, and not everyone is getting very good luck with it. It seems to perpetuate the like the outliers and like all of that exist in your data. But I think if you use it targetedly, I have seen it bring some really great results.
Love it. That's great. And then maybe switching gears to the customer side of things, how do you educate customers on the capabilities and limitations of AI within your product?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think with everything AI, it's you have to label it, right? If you're using AI, you have to label it. You have to make sure that, again, that goes back to make legal your best friend
Yeah.
in the organization. Label it, make sure you're being cautious about like what who your user is and how much appetite they have for AI in their product. So for instance, like at Amazon, we were doing like building products for kids, right? Like, so the appetite is much lower, right? So the way that we worked around that was basically being very selective on what data sources that the LLM can draw from, and and then like powering the experience there. So it's sort of a walled garden, but and it's important walled garden because that's what's gonna make sure that you keep your customers' trust.
Yep, that makes a ton of sense. I think we got time for one or two more. So if anybody has another hot question, please add it. But in the meantime, I'm going to ask one, which is, what industries or domains do you see kind of leading the way in AI innovation? And what are some of the lessons learned that you think we can take from others in the field that we might be able to apply?
Denise, you got cut out there for a second. Can
Oh,
you
sorry.
repeat the last half of it?
Yeah, just what lessons do you think that we can take and sort of apply from, some of these industries that might be leading the way to our own industry that could be more nascent in this area?
Um, yeah, let me think about that. So I think in healthcare, right? Precision medicine and diagnostics are leading the way.
Mm,
And the lesson there is like, they have really rich data, which we talked about, but regulation is really um, strong there. So like we have to be careful about what we're doing from a regulatory lens. Um, I think that's done really well. One of the areas that I think there's a lot of promise is in the mental health space, like double clicking on the health portion of it, because it kind of unlocks this ability for us to um, democratize like mental health services, right? Like it gives you like that one-on-one um, interaction in sort of like a safe space where you know like traditionally you might be going to a therapist, right? Like so you're not even there's not even another human in the loop from that lens. But I think yeah, again, it's gonna be like you have to be careful making sure like you're clear about like how the AI is making decisions, right? And making sure that you have really strong customer education around what this can and cannot be used for, and making sure that the AI is like staying within bounds and you're thinking about like what could go wrong, right?
yeah. Yeah. It's really kind of testing on all those axes of, is there bias in this? I need to be, compliant, and I've got probably large data sets that I'm dealing with. And so I'm kind of pushing in all three areas. So definitely lots for us to learn there by looking at those industries that are solving these problems. All right, so I'm going to sneak in
Mhm.
that last question, if you don't mind. How
Sure.
much experimentation should PMs do choosing LLMs such as OpenAI, Cloud, Gemini, Titan, any of the kind of choice offerings? And any thoughts on open source versus proprietary LLMs?
I think it really depends on what your product is. So if your product really needs customizations on the LLM, then open source helps, right? If you are just like creating wrappers and it's like domain you're adding like domain specific information on top of the foundational LLM, I think that helps you like kind of obfuscate like all of the foundational work and only focus on your use case. So I think that's how I think about it. I am somebody who really loves simplicity. I think there's a lot of value in that. So if you can get away with like the smaller models, then not only do you save on cost, but then you also like kind of are making sure that it's the explainability factor becomes stronger because like like let's say like you've rag trained your model on a few internal sources, right? Then like how it's making decisions. It's gonna be, I mean, LLMs are indeterministic, but it's gonna be fairly deterministic in that context. And that works great because then you've kind of solved your problem and you've limited your costs. So that's a win in my book. So I think it just depends on what you're trying to do.
Makes sense. Um, to the first piece about experimentation, you talked about sort of obfuscation, right? Acting as this layer of obfuscation, on top of the models. Should I spend a lot of time trying to optimize with the tech stack underneath? Again, be that, Grok or ChatGPT or fill in your blank? Or do you think kind of do a little bit of experimentation, maybe one or two, analyze sort of the cost and the need and move quickly to production?
Yeah, I would say move quickly and focus on your use cases and go deep on that. The optimizations for the foundational models, they're getting done, right? Like Google and Anthropic, like all of these companies, they're working on those. That's where they're spending billions, right? Like so, unless you're like at a company that's actually going deep on the AI models, like forget about that. Let them work it out and grind it out. It's $1 billion problem you don't need to have.
Yeah, got it. So probably maybe pick two or three, do a POC, but as much as you can, go off the shelf is kind of what I hear you advising.
Yes.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your insights. Again, as somebody who's got a lot of experience doing this, I appreciate you sharing them with the product community. And thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. Take care.
It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Denise. Thank you,
Absolutely. Thank you.
everyone.